Hello, I'm Katie Moran, and I'm an author, poet, advocate, creativity coach, and social entrepreneur. This is the first episode of Artistic Spirit, your place for art, mental health, and spirituality. Welcome to the first episode. I'm here with Sara Habbab. Sara Habbab is an artist and creativity coach. She started a 365-day journey of creating one piece of art a day for a year. I've witnessed her journey and have seen her go from aspiring to the amazing artist she is now, selling her art at conventions and in her online store, Ethereal Art Collections. Her journals are now available on Amazon. Welcome, Sara.
Hello, hi. Wow.
Sara, tell me about your 365 days of art journey.
Yeah. So it made me smile like ear to ear when you were like, I've witnessed her journey and stuff. I'm like, oh my God, yes. Actually we started before the 365. So people think that it started with a 365. It started before that actually with a 30-day challenge, right? So it started with me having a breaking point. You were there that day. I was just like crying, tears, knots everywhere, saying I'm not a good artist. I don't know my style, all that stuff. And just being very critical of myself and very judging myself like really, really hard. And I didn't understand that skills or it I understood it, but I did not connect it to myself, right? It's easy to hear all those motivating words of like skills grow and keep going at it and things, and I didn't connect that it's possible for me. So at the time when I was being very critical of myself, you were there. Actually, we had a coaching call together, and other friends were there as well, and one of them suggested that do quality through quantity thing. And that's when I put in a small community that we're part of, hey, I'm doing a 30-day creativity sprint. Who's with me? Like, let's show up every day. Let's do for 30 days, no judgment. We're going to post it in the group. The group is closed. Nobody's going to judge anybody's work. It does not have to be complete. It does not have to be perfect, but you just have to show up. And it started from there. And I enjoyed the 30 days. Like I loved showing up every single day. Um, and that was in November of 2020. And that's when after 30 days, kept working on the art. And I had a friend with me we met in the same online community that you and I met. Her name is Chanti Town. Shout out to Chanti Town. She is a paper engineer, an amazing artist, and we always challenge each other. So I don't know, like we think we're superwoman or something. I always think of like how we have all these goals, and it's just like funny that we put all these things that we're gonna do and like it's gonna be here and there. So much energy when I'm with that woman. It's just like makes me we think out of where we at the moment. It's always like shooting for not even the moon or the stars, like shooting for other galaxies. It feels like a moment, right? So that will be possible one day. But I've been entertaining the idea of 365 in my head, but I never shared it to anyone. And it was at the time when I was reading Seth Godin's work, The Practice, which was talking about showing up and doing the work, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to show up, and how the practice is a generous act, like creativity is a generous act. And then she was like, would you be interested in doing a 365-day challenge with me? And I was like, oh my God, like I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to say it. I don't When she said it, I couldn't ignore it anymore. Like when the signs show, and I'm like, all right, let's go. It's a journey. And we've been doing it. Yesterday was 354. Today is 355, and so on. So yeah, it has been a journey since then.
That's so amazing. And it really brings up this idea where you say you didn't think you were capable of doing that. So I'd love to get into this idea of self-limiting beliefs. These are the beliefs about ourselves that we live by that hold us back from fulfilling our potential and creating the life of our dreams. Sarah, you had limiting beliefs about being a leader days before you took on a leadership role where you inspired more creativity in the lives of around 100 people, and the group is growing, called the Creatives Group. You had self-limiting beliefs about being an artist, and now you are stepping into that role. What would you want to tell someone who is the only thing standing in their own way of creating or leading?
Oh, wow. Okay, mm, so when I think of like being a leader and I said I wasn't a leader, I remember that conversation. It feels like every time you tell me something and I'm like, oh, I'm not that. And then like I turn around and like in a short amount of period, I'm overcoming that. But it's not that I'm like, all right, I am like, it's not me just saying like, oh, okay, I'm a leader and just let's go. It's actually a long history of throughout the years. Like even I remember when I was in elementary school or growing up, like I've always had ideas and I've always told my friends like, let's do this, let's do that. And like it depends on the group. Sometimes we follow through, sometimes it falls off. And I didn't understand that what I was lacking is the right community or like the right soil, because like it all plant human are like plants, we're all seeds, we all have potential to grow. But if we're not in the right environment that nourish us, and that nourishing would look like instead of water and fertilizer and stuff, it's encouragement, it's believing, it's like okay, you failed, let's get up and do more. And it's the safety, it's like feeling safe to grow, right? So it even though throughout the years I've always been like, I remember in 2016, when I was on a good weight loss journey actually, and I was leading group exercises. Believe it or not, I was not a trainer. I said the disclaimer like in the beginning, I'm not a trainer, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm here to work out. You're gonna work out with me. We're gonna work in the back parking lot of the office that I was in at the time, like twice a week. I Now looking back at that, I'm like, oh, that's leader quality. But I did not, even back then, I did not identify as a leader, because there was always that. I don't know what it is in the past me that will do the thing, but it'll take time to identify as it. Like I've been drawing all my life, but I've always introduced myself as an aspiring artist, beginner. Like, I would make sure to tell people like I'm growing my skills, I'm like on the journey. Like I would put a whole disclaimer in the beginning of it just to make sure that they know that I'm not professional, or like I'm not making it's not my career yet, or like things like that. Um when in reality, if you're making art, you're an artist. If you're if you're practicing your craft, you're an artist. You don't have to get that validation of money or attention from other people. It's you just sitting and enjoying and doing the work, and not necessarily enjoying. I don't mean like it's all going to be butterflies and stuff, because enjoyment could seem sometimes of like using art as a healing um way of healing, or like a different in or like a way of overcoming certain things, or a way of inspiration, expression. There's so many motivations for a person to sit and do the art, and there is the love of the craft itself. But going back to the leader thing, it was because I was in a safe community that felt safe, that I had I had you to lean on if I needed help. I had Delia if I needed help. I had Nathan if I needed help. Like, I could lean back on certain people if I needed help. And just knowing that it's it's a community where we all are committed to the growth and the journey over the results, and that there is no it wasn't like a high stack where I am responsible for other people's like life, careers and stuff like that. So it felt like I can do it, and then boom, not only I could do it, we had few sprints since then. We've had few brainstorming activities. We host calls every single week. most of the time, 99% of the time, I'm doing the hosting, and there are times when I cannot be present because I'm in an event or something. But at this point, the group has grew so strong, and like everybody has stepped into their leadership role, that it feels that I literally sat in the last call and I'm like, oh my God, like they don't need me. And it felt good. Like it felt, I'm saying it in a good way. Like it's not that they need somebody to facilitate every week. Like they just have the rhythms themselves, and it feels like so beautiful. So yeah, that's so to the person, after all this going rogue stuff and saying all the things that I said, so to the person that is being stopped by a limiting belief, I would love for you to go back, and you wouldn't think of something if you didn't have it in you. You wouldn't have a dream if you didn't have the tools to actually make it true. And that could be leadership, that could be art, that could be any form, anything, right? And if you have the thoughts of like, but I'm not this, or I'm not ready, just understand that we were born as a little piece of human who did not even know how to communicate other than crying. And we literally had to rely on somebody to clean us, feed us, and everything in the beginning. And we gathered ourselves, like we gathered. I love how Sadhguru talks about you eat a banana, it becomes you. It become like, and that example is like as simple as that, but that's how we became the full-size human that we are. We gathered ourselves from food and nutrients and everything, but at the same time, we've gathered our thoughts and personalities from everyone else around us. And sometimes we have some beliefs that are not ours, and we gather them from somewhere. And I'm not saying that judge the person or the environment where you came from and like it made you think that you cannot. What I'm saying is that pick it up, be like, all right, I held this belief for a long time, but now let me experiment with this. Maybe there's something, like I said, you wouldn't have a dream if you didn't have certain tools or ways or wisdom to achieve it. So just trust that it's learnable, and like we can become, just like we became a full-size human, we could become anything that we want to. And of course there are limitations, but for the most part.
That's awesome. So you're also a creativity coach, and you co-facilitated a workshop with me that I'm converting into an online course called Finding Your Creative Vision. What did you learn from that experience that you're excited can be shared with people who will have the opportunity to experience it for themselves?
Ooh. All right. So that course, I'm like, wait, what was it? Workshop, course, class? It was a workshop. Yeah, so in that workshop, I stepped in as your support in it, because like you had the vision for it. You showed me like all, you came up with the curriculum for it and everything. And I just sat there and I'm like, oh my God, like this is actually amazing. So I'm gonna step in as a supporter. Like if you need any help. Little did I know that I was gonna be hosting with you. And it was like it was more role than that. And if you remember correctly, I would lean on you. Like at some points I would send you messages like, hey, I think like, I don't know if the rhythm's right, or like, hey, I don't know what to say next, and like things like that. But again, like it goes back to community, like to the people around, right? It's like, who are you doing these things with? And hosting that workshop with you was, I think that's why it went the way it went. And like I stepped up the way I stepped up because I had you in there to lean on, or like if there was anything, like you have a way of like simplifying things yet delivering a big message, and I admired that. And I attended that workshop as a facilitator and a student at the same time. So it was a beautiful experience, and I realized that a lesson that I learned from you is sometimes it's not about what you say, it's about the feeling, or like the way it's about the intention behind what you're saying, right? sometimes I could stumble on my words and say like a lot of but as long as I know that I really, what I want to get to this person is that your art matters, it's going to get across. The feeling is going to get across, the emotion is going to get across, the intention is going to get across. It doesn't matter how much I stumble, I'm going to learn to speak fluently later. And it's a practice. It's like everything in life, it's a practice. But as long as I keep in mind and heart that it's an intention, it's like I'm speaking human to human, soul to soul, it's gonna get across, I believe.
Yeah, and I think it's important to recognize that at the time you didn't see yourself as a coach. And that was another self-limiting belief, that you stepped into the role as a coach and you were coaching before you even identified as a coach. And I think it's so important that we believe in ourselves enough to take action. And I think you could definitely reverse engineer like identity and say, this is who I want to be, I'm going to take action on it. But like if you have like self-limiting beliefs, sometimes you have to take action on it before you believe in your own identity as something. And I think for you, like I'm so proud that like you really like stepped into like the role of a coach and a host, and like just to see you flourish, like it really goes back to that idea of kind of like a seed being planted. So I love
Yeah.
this idea you said about you're the seed in the soil and the soil is really the community. Can
Mhm.
you tell me how important community has been in your growth?
Oh my God, it's everything. Like I would not be here if it wasn't for the community I'm part of. I don't know if whoever has been listening, they would hear me repeatedly say that it's you, it's like the other people, it's the people in the group, like all of that. Um, it matters who you're surrounded with. It matters what the intention is of the people around you. And I just want to go back and say something about what you, because you said that I stepped up and like I was coaching, I stepped in and was coaching before that. And I remember you asking me, do you see yourself as a coach? And I'm like, no, I don't see myself as a, like, I was like flat out, like that was the fastest no I've ever said to anybody, right? I'm like, no, I don't see myself as a coach. But you saw it happening, and like sometimes it's the people, if you surround it with the right people, with the right community, they will pinpoint your strength. They will tell you like, hey, but you are a leader, hey, but you are a coach, hey, but you're host, like you host, like you mentioned my hosting skills. Another other people in the community mentioned the same thing. And I'm like, oh, okay, so these are strengths that I'm not aware. It's not that I wake up and sleep and say I'm not a coach. It's just like when somebody asks you, I'm like, no, but you're like, wait, there is this, and that. These are evidence of you actually being a coach, or like being a host or anything, like a leader or whatever role it is. So community is very, very, very important, because they will show you your strength, and they will tell you which weaknesses matter and don't matter to work on. Like if I tell you, Katie, I cannot juggle for shit, you'll be like, why do you need to juggle? But if I tell you, Katie, today I cannot draw, you'll be like, all right, let's talk about it. So that's the difference, right? So and the same thing for other people, other members in our community. And having a group of people that we all have the same goal of becoming better and like working our craft, and we're all artists, we have different forms of art. So I happen to be a visual artist. There are like handful of visual artists, but the group has writers, has storytellers, has sound engineers, has craftsmen, craft women as well. So we're very diverse as far as what form of art we're doing. And that has been very inspiring too, because it's just a mix of like all these. There was a time when my Facebook timeline looked so amazing and like inspiring to me, because like I would see someone posting a song, or like somebody posting their art, or somebody posting their writing, and like it just felt like I had the best news feed ever on social media, because I have all this inspiring art that's happening. um and that helped flourish my art more, because what you surround yourself with help like becomes reality. So like the more art I surround myself with, the more art I'm making and I'm aspired to make. So, and I'm talking in art terms, but this could apply to anything in anybody's life. Don't take it only for art.
Yeah. Now, as a creativity coach, what would be your message for creatives?
um all right, so you're going to go through stages, and stages are normal. It's part of the process, and stages could look different for other people, but some of the steps could be um the oh my god, I have a vision in my head but it's not coming out the way I want it stage. You know, like when you think you're a great storyteller, or like you're a writer and you're writing and you're just like nothing's coming the way, like you're not conveying the right emotions through your writing yet. Or like for a visual artist who has a vision and they draw something and they're like, oh my god, it looks like nothing in my head. That is an okay stage. And the only way we can move through that stage quickly or to get to the next stage is through doing more. And not necessarily, like, I'm not adding pressure of like, oh, you have to do more, but what I'm saying is that practice more, consider it a practice. There's freedom. Actually, when I went through the stage of practice, it was freeing, because I knew like I wasn't counting on that for my online store. I didn't have an online store yet. I wasn't counting on that for publicity. Like, you know, I wasn't going to post it online or anything. It was purely for the practice. And it felt good to have that freedom of like, nothing is on the line for this. Um, and then there is the stage of okay, my skills are good but they're not at the, like they're not where I want them yet, and it's frustrating, like how long is this going to take? And it's okay. So there are a lot of stages that we're going to go through, and then there is the stage of like everybody telling you what you should do with your art. And that stage is, I would say, skip that fucking stage, because like nobody should tell you what you need to do with your art. And I've had so many people like message me, for example, be like, oh my god, did you watch this 3D art? You need to be doing this, or like you should be doing kids books, or like you should be doing this. The amount of people that tell me what I should do with my art is incredible, and I love each and every one of them. It's just there is wisdom in knowing that I just follow what feels right for my art, right? Like honor my inspirations. Does that ring a bell? That's your word, that's your sentence.
Yeah, something I always say to people is honor your inspiration, and whether that's devoted practice, when you have specific time of day to practice and really like hone in on what your inspiration is telling you, or whether it's coming up with symbols for ideas you've had previously that you don't have like the time or energy to put into, but just reminding yourself that it's important, like a ring or a candle, or creating sacred space, like diffusing essential oil, things like that. So just like honoring your inspiration and having tools and techniques that remind you that you are someone who creates things, and that your ideas have purpose, and that there's a reason that these ideas are inside of you, and that they're meant to be shared with others. Um, so yeah, and I think it's so important right now that you're talking about ownership of your art, and specifically kind of like taking ownership of the kind of art you make. And I think that goes back to creative vision, like knowing what your message is, knowing where you want to be in 10 years and 15 years, and what that looks like each day. Like, what do you have to do today for maybe 5 to 10 minutes to get where you want to be in 5 years? And kind of like planning each day with like that inspiration that you're talking about, and honoring that. So another way to look at ownership of your art is to talk about NFTs. So you have an NFT collection, Lightholders. So can you say a little bit about learning about NFTs? And NFTs are non-fungible tokens. They're digital art on the blockchain that have contracts with them. So you can give your audience and people who buy your art like different benefits. So Sara, when someone buys a one of one, which is a unique piece of art, she gives them benefits if it's sold in print. So Sara, I'd love to hear about your NFT journey and your collection, the Lightholders.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. And yes, my collectors have the benefit of whatever piece that they purchase, because the NFTs that I have in there, they're all one of one animated version of an art that I made. So there are 6 pieces in Lightholders collection, and each each one of them, I have it in prints or I have it in products such as like pop sockets or keychains and things like that. And when I go to conventions and events, whatever is sold of those pieces, of each piece in print, they get a certain percentage of the sale, of the profit actually. So yeah, they're getting paychecks. I'm making it rain for them. No, I'm just kidding. It's not a big amount of money, but it's something, all right. Intensifying them. Yeah. And NFT journey has been, so in the beginning, NFT, I started listening or hearing about NFTs when I joined Clubhouse, which is the app that I love so much. I met so many great people through Clubhouse. We host a room together on Clubhouse with Emery as well. And I wish to talk about it later too, Katie. Um, yeah. And I started listening about NFTs and I didn't have a full understanding of it, right? And I, just because I didn't understand it, I wouldn't stay in rooms for long, but I would gather some information here and there, and I would just like step away and like had my own judgment over what NFTs are and everything. And I had this one friend who I made through Clubhouse. Her name is Sarah E. Her nickname is Creatress. And she would always talk about like, hey, Sarah, when are we gonna start your NFT? And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll let you know. I'll let you know. Like, I'm always like, all right, not for me right now, not for me right now. And thinking about it, like every time we talk, me and her, she laughs at me. She's like, remember, you were like, I don't want to do NFTs. I don't care about that stuff. And now I actually have, I'm an NFT artist, collector, and I sold NFTs too. So like all of it. It has been a beautiful journey because when I decided to do the NFTs, I reached out to her and I'm like, all right, what's the first step? And she led me through like creating my digital wallet. She led me through, she explained to me how to create a collection, but I never made the collection on that time. Like I waited. I was like, all right, I'll get back to this. And then when I heard Tom Bilyeu go around NFTs and like talk about it a lot, and he was ready to drop his, I was like, oh my God, maybe I'm letting go of something that is actually like an opportunity or a new way. And that's what it is. It's a new way of exchanging services, values, digital goods, a lot of different things. The sky's the limit for it. There are actually, the sky is not the limit, according to Naveen Jain. The sky is part of the imagination, so your imagination is the limit. I don't know, that's what he always says.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I made the collection Lightholders, and I chose the 3 pieces that were always going to go together in any collection, that they felt like a collection because they were all made in of the 365 days of art. These 3 pieces are so special to me because like they always felt like a collection. I made the first one, which is internal, on International Women's Day, and it was, I wanted to capture the feeling of the feminine energy and the connection with, like, between the feminine and the universe, and how we actually as women have the power of birth, which is create, like, giving another life, or making another life, or hosting another life till it's ready to come out to the outside world. um and that was internal. And then external is the part of, even though we're not in the womb anymore, like we're doing our work outside, we're still connected to the universe, because like her feet are still touching that little um galaxy. And then there's Star Mother, because Star Mother is always there. Star Mother could represent anything for you, right? It could be, it represent the universe, could represent anything that higher than yourself that you think of, like spiritual, which she's always there, gently watching over. And if we go to her at any time, we're still that little kid child inside, and she always has her arms open. And that's why, like, the arms are open, like to hug us and be like, all right, child, replenish and go back, do your thing in the world. And then I added the 3 other pieces that had similar energies when I made them. So when you're doing 365 days of art, you're gonna have a lot of ideas, and a lot of them are have similar inspiration. So it was only natural to add the other 3 pieces to the collection because they had the similar energy, I was in a similar space of heart and mind and soul when I made them. Yeah.
I think that's really beautiful, and how you're talking about like the decisions an artist makes and kind of like going through like what your art means to you and how you want to present it. And I think that's something that's really beautiful, that you're in a place where at one point you didn't see yourself creating art, or you didn't think it was possible, and now you're actually at a place where you have to make these decisions on how you're going to present your art, that like one time you didn't even think would be in existence. And I just want to really point that out to anyone who's listening, who feels like they have a desire to create and they have big dreams, but they really don't see how of how they can do it. And sometimes it's not really about the how, it's about the journey. And you don't have to know how you're going to do something, because sometimes the action comes just like from the intent itself. And taking action is definitely a decision, and you need the courage to do that. And I think like anyone who might be on the fence about making the next step in their life to create something, I think this would be something that's really motivating for them, because just hearing how you had so many self-limiting beliefs and you really turned them around, it seems like within days, because like you've stated self-limiting beliefs to me and then like really took action on it, like sometimes the next day. And I know for you, it was a longer journey. Like you had self-limiting beliefs for years. But really, like for anyone, like it really takes like a day for you to like make the decision. Like it only takes a decision, like one decision away from like overcoming a self-limiting belief. And sometimes it takes longer to process that you've overcome that self-limiting belief. And you still might have more self-limiting beliefs that you have to overcome. And that's part of the journey. And I think it's so important that you talk about this as being a journey. And it's not really so much about like having a year worth of art pieces, but really it's who you become in the process. And for so many people now, specifically end of 2021, early 2021, like people are looking at like New Year's resolutions. And if like learning how to create is on your list, like sometimes like all you need is that courage to like go from aspiring to actually taking action on your dreams. And you can work for 5 to 10 minutes a day just to like get your feet in a place where you feel firm within yourself, that you are confident enough to take action. So that's really what I hear from a lot of like your journey, and that you've overcome all these self-limiting beliefs. But I do have some questions about Clubhouse.
Can I say something? Hold
Of
on.
course.
Can I say something? Yeah. I love how you said that. It could take years for a limiting belief to be there and like to kind of keep dragging us, but then decision does not have to take as long. And I literally remembered the story in hold on, what's his name? I forgot, but it's in the Noticer. Andy Andrews. He has such amazing stories. He's such a great storyteller. I love his stories. So in one of his books, I think it was The Noticer or The Noticer Returns, one of those two books, he tells somebody, he was talking to somebody about, there was this person who was very like depressed on himself, he's not happy where his life is taking, and he's like, oh my god, like I'm this, I'm that, like just saying every limiting belief that could possibly be. And he talks to him, like after a conversation, he's like, all right, I'm gonna change right now. Like the guy decides to change, and like he was so inspired. And the character, his name is Jones, he's like, there are 10 birds on a standing on a tree. One of them says, I'm I decided to fly away. How many are still there? And he's like, 9. And he's like, no, decision is one thing and flying away is another thing. He decided, but he didn't fly it. And that's like and it could take so long to, and sometimes the reason we don't move over things is because they're not pointed to us. Like I didn't know that I had this limiting belief until somebody outside of me that pointed at me like, oh, this is holding you back. Like you say you want to be this, you say you want to be a good artist, you say you want to do this, you say you want to do that, but then you have this, like, why are you saying no, you're not this? And it took that kind of conversation to kind of um take the direction that I took. And I love the other thing about how you, in what you just said, I remembered that I'm committed to the journey. I'm committed to being an artist and to inspiring and to sharing the journey, but I'm not so uptight on how I do that exactly. Like, as you said, the how is not for us to figure out. It's sometimes like you just need to go for it before you know how. um and it seems that all these hows are opening themselves up. Like I had a goal of being an anime NYC only one convention, but now conventions are on my list, actually part of my plan, that I'm like, oh my god, this is actually a possibility. Even though I've attended conventions for all my, like, for a long time, but it never crossed to my mind that this actually, I had a one convention dream, but that being in that one place made me again accepted, actually got me to the first convention that I went to, which is a small one in Jersey. And then I went to Anime University, and then now I'm like, oh my god, there is more. And the same thing for NFTs. It took, oh my god, like this is possible. It just, if your goal, and you were talking as well about if somebody's goal is creating, I remember when I started the 365 days of art, like my biggest fear that nobody understands, that how am I going to come up with artwork like how am I going to come up with ideas? Like, am I smart enough to come up with ideas? Like that was literally something on my mind. And it just happens. It's just, you believe. It's the silliest thing that I could tell myself, but I always have faith in tomorrow's Sarah. I always have faith in future Sarah to figure shit out. I'm like, current me is like at this level, but future Sarah is gonna figure this out. Future Sarah, I am always betting on that future Sarah, which is like something I never talk about. It's like because it's silly, it's cheesy, it's like, trusting in your future self. But just that little belief that I replaced, I just realized that it kind of, in other words, I'm telling myself I'm not going to be the same tomorrow. It's as if I'm making a commitment to this Sarah, that Sarah's tomorrow is not going to be the same as Sarah's today. Just me believing in future Sarah, it means that I'm just going to keep climbing the ladder. Now, some steps are going to be missing, some steps are going to be broken, some steps I'm going to be just going like right and left, like on the same step. I'm like, oh my god, am I going to go, like, how am I going to make it up there, and then like take the leap for it? But it just means that future Sarah will always be better than the Sarah right now. It's not to limit myself, I'm saying better than Sarah right now. The Sarah right now is doing her best too. So not to get very paradoxical here. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I'm so glad you really like recognize that, and that how much faith it takes to really believe in like who you are becoming, and to really rely on that and trust yourself. So you're active on Clubhouse, and you have met some of your best friends and collaborators on the platform. You host the creativity coaching room with me and Anne Marie, and I'm just wondering, how can artists and creatives utilize Clubhouse? And also, if you want to talk a little bit about the creativity coaching room, like, feel free.
Sure. So Clubhouse has been, I honestly say that there are two communities that contributed to Sara today. One of them is Impactier University, where I met other people, where I met Shantytown, who I gave the shout out to earlier, that we started the 365 journey together. But the other community that actually I'm very blessed to be part of, or like friends I'm blessed to have in my life, I met on Clubhouse. Now, when I went on Clubhouse, I just wanted to experiment with this new app, sound only. Let's see what happens and let's have fun and like let's meet people and joke around and all of that. And I remember like on the early days when I realized anybody could host a room, I was like, Katie, do you want to host a room about hosting a room? Like we literally hosted a room about hosting a room. I'm not kidding.
That was a fun room.
We would be like, oh, come practice with us about how you host your room. And we would literally just get on the stage, we would like, one person would open the room, the other, mod the other person, and then like unmod, put to the audience, like, play, like we were literally playing around with all the buttons, like, if you give a kid some kind of game and they're like pressing every button to learn what they're doing, that's what we were just like, let's practice together. And along the way we met some people, and I remember the lady who used to come with us all the time. It was so much fun. Like we would have these conversations and like just go around the room and talk about a topic. And I don't know if you remember, but we would have like one topic and start talking about it. So we were doing the creativity coaching room before we actually had the creativity coaching room.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another example of take inventory of what you're doing and what's fun to you right now, because that will lead you to things that you actually love and you want to do more and more of. So even when it was only 3 people in the room, we would go around the room and like, talk about an idea, flip it, come up with ideas and things like that. And that was around the time when we were talking about creativity coaching. And that's when I was like, hey, Katie, like, do you think I can, after you told me like a few days before that, like, hey, you're a coach. I'm like, no, I'm not. I came around and I was like, hey, I'm thinking of coaching. And you're like smiling like you are right now. The same smile. And I met some amazing people through the Creative Lounge, which is, shout out to the Creative Lounge, which is a club in Clubhouse. That's when we started doing the creativity coaching room, you and I, and then Marie started showing up, and she would show up every time, stay the whole time, and like always contribute to the conversation. And then that's when we were like, do you want to moderate with us? She's like, yeah, sure. I'm like, oh my God, yes. Right. So she became an official host with us, and we started hosting that. And we did stop for some time. We all got busy on our journey, but now we picked it back up. So the creativity coaching room is a room that we lead for an hour to an hour and a half, twice a week. I think we started with 4 times a week, then 3 times, then 2 times, and now we're settled on 2 times a week. And it could be from an hour to an hour and a half. There were rare occasions when we were for 2 hours, and it was just like such a good conversation. Like everybody's just going. And we're picking it back up now. So it's every Monday and Thursday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the goal of the room is not to just for us to teach people like, hey, today we're going to talk about this and that's it. It's actually going around the room and being like, how do you deal with this? Like, how are you dealing with writer's block or creative block? Or how do you deal with fear of judgment or sharing your art publicly or not sharing your art? Like, we take one topic and we just ask people like, how are you dealing with it right now? Are you good with it? Like, have you, like, share with us where you started, what's your direction and everything. And we take it from there. It's literally sharing everybody's experience, tips, resources. And like you said, I met some of the most amazing human artists through Clubhouse. And I had so many collaborations. I had my first virtual gallery because someone on Clubhouse reached out and was like, I love your art. I want to host a gallery for you, like a virtual gallery. and her name is Alaska. She's an amazing artist. And it was a beautiful, it felt like really, really special for somebody to reach out and be like, hey, I'm a curator. I'm going to curate this virtual gallery for you. And it was good. And then I had Vero by Vero on any social media platform, and she is a co-owner of Noonlight Studios, that's known as like afternoon Noonlight Studios. um she reached out to her and her partner Violet, and they did a photo shoot for me, which was like really special because like I've never, my relationship with camera is not that pretty. Like, I get on video and talk because there is somebody else on the other side of the video, but like I didn't have a good relationship with the camera, as in like do a photo shoot for myself or like things like that. So it was like really beautiful, made me feel very comfortable. It was a beautiful experience. And yeah, it's just being part of their success, being part of, like, we celebrate each other's successes. We've cried together over Clubhouse. We've inspired one another. I met Creatress in Miami. She came to New York, and then we met in Miami. And Catalina, who I collected her NFT, one of her NFTs. And yeah, a lot of very amazing, inspiring people.
That's awesome. What would you have to say to any creatives looking for a community?
Yeah. So you did ask me what would I tell people about like Clubhouse. I would say get in rooms, like any room that has a title that you want to be part of, like about art. Artists online want to help other artists. We You don't have to do it alone anymore. It is not a lonely journey like it was before. It's a very beautiful journey if you have the right people with you. Now, practice is a lonely journey because like you have to be behind closed doors and do it every day, or like as frequent as you wish to. But as far as like the journey itself, you don't have to do it alone. So get in as many rooms as your heart desires, meet people, have the conversations. And even if you don't see the rooms out there, like you can make your own room and start attracting the people that want to have the same conversation, because people will look on Clubhouse like on the hallway, all right, this title seems something I'm interested in, let's get in the room, let's talk to this person. And you might suck at the beginning. I mean, we sucked at the beginning, but we did it. So it's all good. And even online, like I see a lot of like even your favorite artists. I don't know who your favorite artists are. An artist, I'm not talking about only visual, I'm talking like in general. Like the people that you admire might have Patreon that you could connect with them through, might have a mentorship program that you could find your community through. Any artist or any person that has a community online that you resonate with their message, you love their work, and they inspire you, like get involved with them, with their community. And you find your people. Don't give up, because like I tell you right now, I work hard, I work a lot, I sit at the chair for long hours doing many things including art. But all that is good, but it's the people in my journey that really, that they're going to pull you through when you don't feel it. They're going to celebrate you when you do something good. You're going to celebrate them. Like their success is going to inspire you to do more. And the same goes like for example, like even with you, Katie, like when I see you like going for your podcast and like your online workshop that you're putting out for 2022, and I'm like, I'm so proud of you, like I'm so happy for you, and it lights a fire in me that I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do more now. Like, because you see the people around you doing, and you're not gonna be the same person. Find your soil.
That's amazing.
Uh,
So my final question, what's the secret to creating art every day?
Yeah, you're gonna have to eat 3 eggs, 4 egg whites. No,
No
I'm just
eggs.
kidding. I'm just kidding. Some almond milk. No,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so start with, if you want to create art every day, start with saying, I'm gonna sit for 10 minutes a day for 30 days, because that's literally how it started for me. I said, I'm gonna sit for a minimum 10 minutes. If that extends for hours, let it be. If it's only 10 minutes and I stop right there, let it be. But just fix your desk or like table or whatever, wherever you draw, be it on a couch, be it on the floor. Just fix it in a way that you're ready to do the art, whatever art you're doing, anyway, of shape or form of art, or discipline. But just commit to 10 minutes a day for 30 days, and have somebody, have at least one person doing it with you. If you don't have the community yet, have one person who's going to do it with you. If you cannot find a person who's going to do it with you, at least have a person that you're going to show your work to every day, but make sure that it's a person that will not judge you and will understand that you're on a journey for just sitting and doing the work, not necessarily doing it perfectly, not necessarily doing it right, because there is no right or wrong in art. It's art. You cannot grade art. um but yeah, commit to that, and then let that be the first step for you to doing an actual finished art piece every single day. And just know what you're committed to. Are you committed to the perfection of it? Are you committed to like making beautiful work every day? Or are you committed to the journey itself? It matters what we're committing to. So understand that we're enrolled in the journey, not necessarily the result. We don't control the outcome, we don't control the results. It's out of our head. We only control the work and the practice that we're doing. Yeah. And if you need a community to practice with, we will start one in 2022. So I'm just putting it out. It's going to be actually linked in the show notes, I believe. So just join us. We would love, if you cannot find anybody to practice with and just enroll in that daily practice journey, we would love to support you, and we will be participant with you as well. So yeah, that's how.
Yeah, and I think it's so important for writers too, that kind of like you can start with 10 minutes a day. Like I was coaching someone and I told them that, and they originally had the idea that they were going to write for an hour a day. And they said like just hearing that like 10 minutes, like if you could just do 10 minutes, like because you could always spare 10 minutes. And she said that was really like transformational for her, like that really like changed her mindset, that like if she wanted to she could like make that time longer, but if she felt like that was all she had in her that day, like that was enough to like keep that creative inspiration sparking and keep that flow state. So I think that's such a powerful message for anyone, specifically writers, because I think not enough writers talk about like how 10 minutes a day can still be beneficial. And I think you do see that with a lot of other art disciplines. And writers, I think, need to hear that message the most right now, because so many people feel like they don't have time to create, or they're too overwhelmed to create. And kind of like that manageable time to work towards something is really what makes a difference in the long run. Um, so yeah, we will be starting a community on Discord, for anyone who's interested. And Sarah, can you explain a little bit about Discord?
Sure. So it's a really good organized platform. So it's consider it, you will be part of a server. When we say community, it's going to be as a, in a form. It then the name on Discord is server, and within that server there are going to be channels. So for example, we're going to have a channel for visual artists, for musicians, for writers, for Q&As, or like for feedback, for So it's very, very organized because of these channels. So everything is going to be in categories, and you could skip everything and go to like what you care about. For example, like if you're a musician and you just want feedback on your music, you will post it in the musician, for example, or like the feedback section. And it's a place where you could go actually, even if you want to co-work with other people, you want to do something like a studio hour, or you don't want to be working by yourself, you could actually go live and share screen and show your work and have conversation while you're working on whatever you're working. You don't have to share screen. You could just have that conversation. And you can host events in there. So it's a very, very organized platform that's very effective large large communities to stay effective for everybody who's part of it, because it's easy on other platforms for your message to get lost. But in these Discord channel, like Discord servers, if there is a channel for it, and if there is anything that you want a channel for, we could create that for you. And that is Discord in 30 seconds. Was that
Amazing.
30 seconds? I don't know.
Maybe a little bit longer. Yeah. So thank you so much, Sarah. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast today. And it was the first episode, so a very special occasion. And I'm honored to have you.
I'm honored to be the first episode, and I'm so happy. I'm so proud of you, and I'm so happy to see and to listen to every episode you put out there.
Thank you, Sarah.